Everybody, it's Mercer here. I know I haven't uploaded a video in like 6 months. It's been a while. And the reason why I'm coming back out of the shadows is to play, you guessed it, Shadow of War, as you can hence from the gameplay. And I just wanted to come on YouTube to talk about, what are my thoughts on the game, give a little review. Now I'd like to start with the graphics. And the graphics, they're much better than Shadow of Mordor than I remember. Talon's character design looks a lot better. He has a little more stubble. So that's for the graphics part. I give that a well done, good job. Next thing I'd like to talk about is the gameplay itself. Now the gameplay itself, I like it a lot better than Shadow of Mordor. Shadow of Mordor's free flow combat was really good. I loved it. And I love the fact that they have a lot more combat in this game. The bird of prey skill you got in this game. That's a really, really nice touch. You're falling out of the sky, and you can use your bow and arrow while you're in the sky. That is something I've wanted in actually the first game. I didn't even know, even before I heard about the second game. I was playing the first game, I was like, I wish that you could pull a Legolas from Lord of the Rings. Use your bow and arrow while you're falling. And they've given us this freedom. More about the gameplay itself and what I feel about it. It is, compared to Shadow of Mordor's combat, I'd have to give it probably an 8 or a 9 out of 10. Probably 8.5 out of 10 combat. Now, for the story itself is lackluster. I found myself at times during the story that I didn't find myself immersed enough. There was not enough going on in the story to make me want to get involved with it. There just wasn't enough. Hopefully the boss fight will be much better than Shadow of Mordor's, because that was essentially a QTE with Sauron. That's exactly what it was, actually. Which I think they redeemed themselves with the Bright Lord campaign. In that DLC, you actually had a fight with Sauron, which I think was very well deserved. And more on to the new gameplay features. Now, when it comes to this, for example, the domination in this game, I think is flawless. In Shadow of Mordor, you had to grab them first and then dominate them, which was, sometimes was a pesky thing to do. Is very, tedious, because if you're in a crowd of Uruks fighting a captain or a war chief, then you'd have to grab him while fighting those lesser hunters and berserkers, and especially when you're dealing with defenders on the side, that just gets really annoying afterwards. Now, I'm not one for questioning tediism in games or tedious objectives. I don't mind them as much as other people, but that was just kind of ridiculous, But in Shadow of War, you get this new domination system where all you gotta do is, essentially what would be the drain in Shadow of Mordor. And especially when you get the mind breaker or broken mind skill, either one. It really decreases that time you have to dominate them, and that just so helpful. The domination in this game is flawless. I know focus isn't a new gameplay feature, that's in the last one, but I can't help but notice that the focus in this game is drained significantly faster. It's drained much faster in this game than Shadow of Mordor, because namely you don't have any upgrades. The only upgrades you get for focus really are the runes, the different kinds of runes you get for your ring. And as that is good for the RPG element, I found myself at times while using my bow that wasn't very fun. You gotta really, they really force you to get the bird of prey skill, which the skill actually decreases your focus time while you're in the air using your bow, which I love. And another feature that I like to add, because it just happened, was the double jump feature. I thought that was well needed. That was a big plus in this game. especially also the sprint mechanic, that you don't have to jump over obstacles to sprint anymore. I mean, you can still do that, but if you don't have any obstacles and you just want to get somewhere real quick, you don't care, you don't give a shit, then using, focus, like a little bit of focus. Look at that. Look in the bottom left. That is like no focus for sprinting quite a distance. Now, that is good for a getaway dash, because trying to jump over something using elven swiftness just doesn't work, really. It was very well needed, and probably should have addressed this in the beginning of the video, but I am a bit under the weather. But enough of that, back to the review. Another thing that they added to the game was the Mite Meter. And the Mite Meter is essentially replaces your hit streak, like the execution hit streak, like Arkham style and Shadow of Mordor tradition, with a Mite Meter. And if you fill it up halfway, then you get execution, Elven Light, you consume everything that you could with 8 hit streak or higher in Shadow of Mordor. Now, is this feature better than the hit streak counter? My opinion, yes, it is. There are some flaws with it that I don't like, but the game's not meant to be easy, so those flaws are thrown out the window. And my main flaw was, of course, you have to build that up, and if you get hit, of course it goes down. But the hit streak in Shadow of Mordor, it just disappears, so it's a little bit easier. But my main flaw with it is that it takes a really long time to actually fill up, considering if you're in like a giant fight, and compared to Shadow of Mordor, it just really was taking such a long time. You had to really give a beating to everyone around you to actually induce the Mite Meter to actually get up. And another thing I really like to add, like a new character type in the game, are these guys right here. Seeing them right now. The Olokai, they are a very good character in the game. I'm very glad they added him, that character type, because there was like really only like 2 character types, the Orcs and Uruks. And of course, those are good enough for me. The Olokai just kind of put the icing on the cake by adding a tank, variation of the Orcs and Uruks. Essentially a battle troll that can go in sunlight. And that's pretty cool. You dominate one of those, you just fuck shit up. Now, another topic, while I'm on the subject of new characters, the Nazgul have been released in the game. And I thought that was cool as shit, because I love the Nazgul in the movies. And the fight sequence of them is, so far, I actually like them. No, they're not like other boss battles where it's like one and done. The same thing with the Balrog, very nice addition. And it's just very nice overall, awesome. I really like that. Another thing with the beasts, though, they also have a Mite Meter, an individual Mite Meter for the beasts and the mounts you have. Every mount has one, Graugs, Caragors, and Drakes. Now, these 3 mounts, all, of course, are extremely different in every way possible. Thinking about the Caragor as your traditional, vehicle in a war game, Graug's a tank, and Drake is essentially like a jet or a helicopter, which could be both, even a VTOL. It just makes more sense for them to have a Mite Meter as well, because they didn't really have that in Shadow of Mordor. It is a good touch. However, I mean, the execution and the eating with the executions, I don't know how I feel about those. I quite like the triangle feature in Shadow of Mordor. Maybe that's because, I like the game too easy. I don't know. But it was quite easy in that game. You can just eat a captain straight up, no question about it. Even if they were a beast slayer. Another thing they improved upon was the fights and the movement of all of the mounts. Because the Graug, he could climb like small surfaces like this in Shadow of Mordor, but now he can climb full-fledged walls, as you're about to see in here. Boom, he's just climbing. Oh yeah, I got The cheated death system I absolutely love about the Nemesis system. It is just so awesome when you just having this constant fight between a nemesis or just a random ass captain or war chief, and he just comes back after you kill him and then fucks your shit up. You know, it's not a good day for either one of you because he lost an arm and you lose your life. It's such a good system. I love it to hell. Now, another thing about the Nemesis system is that I had a slight problem with it. It's not too bad. That it seems every grunt orc that kills you the first time is always going to be called the Tark Slayer. Now, this is just a little topic, like the smallest little detail I could ever fit in this video. However, I mean, they could have, I mean, maybe it's just my luck, because I did play the game through 3 times, and every time I got killed by a grunt the first time, they were always called the Tark Slayer, which I don't know if that's because of my luck, or they just decided that the first orc that kills you is going to be named the Tark Slayer. I don't know. But if that is the case, then that is pretty lazy, not gonna lie. However, they did a good job on his speech, which I love the speech for the Tark Slayer. It's always the same, however. But nonetheless, it is a good speech. Now, enough on that subject on Tark Slayer. More on the game.
Am I missing something? Probably.
That's bad. I'm not gonna put in the video. Reviews don't do that shit. The mobility of this game and the flexibility of it is just phenomenal in my opinion. It is such a good game. The final verdict for this game would probably be to buy their standard edition, because I can't really give you insight on the gold edition just yet, because obviously the game just came out. There's no DLC yet. You know, I have to actually play the DLC to give you my opinion on that. So far, standard edition. I bought the gold edition, you know, to obviously rate the DLC. But other than that, that's my review for the standard game. So yeah, that's my review. Probably like 5 times now. And my name's Merchant.
Am I missing something?